Janair 1 win away from that match tomorrow against KT Rolster that could send them to the World Championships.
Just on CJ to show us something new. Now, they first picked Gangplank in Game 1 on the blue side. They're just going to ban it away this time. Maybe Coco's not prioritizing it in the mid lane. They don't want to give it to Shy, so it's another champion, another ban that Janair will eat. Will we see Gangplank, Lulu, and Malphite banned away? Because they gave up Malphite last game, and they were made to pay for it.
Gangplank, Malphite banned right away as Zir Shen, so pretty typical stuff. CJ, yeah, you need to get rid of that Malphite.
Lulu's the last champion that Janair really centered comps around. Now, CJ could, of course, pick away the Lulu. I imagine both Shy and Coco, hell, even Mad Life could probably do a decent job on that champion. Of course, you don't show a lot of information locking it up early, but remains to be seen why they prioritize that, whether they've been practicing it. Where does CJ go with their last ban? They're really considering their options. And on the blue side, they banned Kalista.
Okay. So obviously not planning to first pick that, but not wanting to give the opportunity over to Janair. So will we see an Ashe picked up early on for CJ then? I wonder.
You have to feel like Elise is the first pick that CJ are angling for, new champion for
probably
Ambition. I thought maybe Janair would just leave up the Lulu and look to say, for example, take Lulu Ashe in the next rotation, but the Lulu ban cements the Elise's first pick.
So anticipating the Maokai pick from Shy, they're going to grab Fizz Cannon right off the bat. I think that's probably a good idea. They know Shy's not great on Fizz. They know that his Maokai would certainly suffer versus Trace's Fizz, you'd think.
It's not exactly a great Trace champion either, though, the Fizz.
It's a bit odd, isn't it?
I guess we could be seeing Fizz in the mid lane, and GBM will definitely leave himself open, and of course they can take their top laner as last picks, given that they're on the red side. So Fizz, definitely the dual nature of this champion, at least on this current patch and future patches, he'll be reworked towards more of a magic damage and thus more of a mid lane champion. But right now, the flex pick nature makes it a very hotly contested first round pick. And where will CJ go with their draft? Certainly not in Italy, because they've already got a jungler.
Well, LeBron would be good here. Someday Malzahar support will come back, but probably not today.
Come back?
Yeah, man. It's been around.
In competitive play? Maybe.
Yeah, we've seen it in Korea.
I remember seeing
last
mid lane
year,
Malphite.
I think we saw one.
I remember seeing mid lane, Malzahar from, who was it? Maybe Many Reason played it once, way back in the day.
Somebody played it support at one point too. I can't remember who it was, but it happened.
Forces out of QSS, maybe?
Maybe I'm just remembering all of my solo queue games because they seem like pro matches. You know, I guess if you'd watch them, probably.
I've watched your stream. I don't see it, though.
Really? I think I get that a lot from people like, whoa, I thought this was a pro game I was watching. It was just Doa in Silver 4. Who knew? I can see how people get confused.
So Rek'Sai and Sivir just going for the reliable. I mean, Sivir 515, how reliable was that ultimate? That's been a big question. Now, Diana's been banned consistently.
I don't like the Sivir pick here for Janair. It just does not seem strong now.
And when you have Fizz and the Rek'Sai, and Kennen as well, who all want to dive into the front line, who all need to race in, who are all melee champions, I don't mind it in theory, but the nerfs really have hit this champion pretty severely. We have not seen much convincing Sivir play, specifically in Korea.
Well, we're going to need to see Janair have coordination that is their very best if they're going to want to make this work. And they have struggled with it, even in this series, in the first game. If they can play like they did in Game 2, I'm not worried about it. If they play like they did in Game 1, then I might be a bit concerned.
This is interesting. So Space is going to go with the Jinx. The only Jinx you really see. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Insta-lock Cho'Gath. Now, where is this Cho'Gath going, though?
Looks like it's going to be theoretically in the mid lane.
I think so, too. I think it has to be mid lane. This is definitely a GBM special. This is definitely one he cooked up earlier. Yep. He was waiting for a Diana pick. I was chatting to him pre-game. He said, I've got something special prepared for the Diana. It's Cho'Gath.
I guess so. I don't see Spawn around to take that guy out, so it looks like Coco might be in a little bit of trouble. I can't wait. This is awesome.
It's a really interesting choice. I mean, Diana post 6 has a lot of ability to dash. Can be hard to pen down. Cho'Gath's very tanky. AP Cho'Gath in the mid saw its time in the meta around MSI, but it's definitely a blast from the past with the Cho'Gath.
Yeah, now suddenly that Sivir seems even scarier. When you've got a Cho'Gath like rocket-powered coming into your team, that is not something that you really want to deal with. So Coco may have his work cut out for him. CJ losing this game will mean the end of their year. So we'll see if Janair can close it out. It's time, guys. Jinair going for the 3-0 over CJ. They 3-0 Najin. Can they do the same thing to CJ and move on to fight KT Rolster tomorrow for a spot at Worlds? Let's get in the game and find out. Welcome to Summoner's Rift for what could be the final time tonight. A huge cheer from the crowd for CJ Entus. And Jinair fans more sparsely populated within the studio, but still just as loud.
CJ Entus fans, fiercely loyal, stuck through thick and thin, blaze and frost. Just looking for something to cheer for because it's been a really poor postseason. But I want to deconstruct this Jinair comp because you look down at certainly not a lot of range champions. Both solo lanes are melee champions. Of course, a melee jungle is to be expected. Turret pushing is going to be very difficult for anyone out of the 2v2 lane of Sivir and of course have a lot of lane dominance between the two of them. So while the wave clear from Cho'Gath is ranged, pushing objectives and finishing the game, which again has haunted Jinair both in this series and traditionally, closing the game could be difficult unless they get a very big objective lead.
There's that battle cast Cho'Gath. Who needs hands when you can have gun hands?
But no boombox. Come on, GBM.
Oh well. He doesn't need to drop the fat beats right now. He just wants to drop Coco. And for the first time this series, no giant level 1 team fight. I'm kind of disappointed.
I agree with you. They were certainly bloodthirsty, if nothing else.
Oh yeah.
Coco's got a sapling. Maybe he'll try and take out some extra experience from the camp. Always interested to see whether the experience is given to Shy or to Coco. People kind of disagree whether the experience should be taken by either the mid laner or the top laner.
Do you think it matters more if the top laner is going to be in one of those 1v2 situations?
I mean,
give him that?
I agree in that sort of a situation, and we can see that lane swap is definitely happening given that a blue side lane swap is initiated by CJ. You can see both Space and Mad Life on the top side. Is Che and Pilot going to late invade for information, be spotted, and find out that, yep, lane swap time seems to be upon them.
Yeah. Space and Mad Life up in the top lane.
The battle of the hella tanky AP off meta mid laners. Diana versus Cho'Gath. Very similar champions between the two.
Yeah.
Split pushing advantage definitely goes to Coco, but both these champions deceptively tanky, so kill potential not really that high in the mid lane.
You know, we've drawn some comparisons between GBM and Coco over the course of the season, over the course of this series, and this Cho'Gath is just another example of that.
GBM
another
always
Kuro
has.
special.
Exactly, and he's always got these sort of champions. That's what
Yeah.
GBM does, is he innovates. He's happy to have a very wide champion pool. And this is something he's prepared because he was definitely ready. They banned this champion consistently, but he's been ready for the Diana pick. And he's gone for the Cho'Gath, which has a lot of potential, but it's risky.
It is. Jinair is in a pretty comfortable spot, though. They are up 2 games, so they don't need to worry too much if they drop one at this point. GBM certainly pushing that lane very hard here. Oh, Coco having a bit of a hard time farming and keeping up. That top lane turret, though, is just going to get taken out. CJ just going for one.
This is something different from Korea. The fast push meta has definitely been in vogue in both NA and EU, but we haven't seen much of it. And Jinx is one of the best champions of fast push. Jinx next to Tristana is excellent pushing out turrets. Siv's no slouch either, but this is definitely CJ trying to set the pace of a game, and that's not something they've been able to do in either of the first 2 games of this series.
Yeah. Well, they'll do it this time. They get the first turret up in top lane. Bottom lane is probably pretty low, but I don't know if Pilot and Che can take it out. Looks like they will. Okay, so they will just trade turrets straight up, it looks like.
Trying to deny as much CS as possible before Space gets the killing bounty.
Yep. Oh boy. All right. So, Ambition also takes a red buff, it looks like, too. Now, will they be able to catch GBM here?
It's very tanky.
He's been pushing up this mid lane as well quite a bit. You want to try to take out that turret. You want to try to limit Diana's roaming options as fast as you can, I suppose.
I mean, Diana's laning phase pre-6 is pretty safe. Goes very tanky. Some players don't even take a point in E, the Moonfall, and just go for a second point in shield just to battle a little bit more. Both these champions have very strong auto attacks between the passive of Diana and the E from the Vorpal Spikes from Cho'Gath. So very similar champions, and they're just going to match farm. So smart from GBM, understanding that his team has no control over their red side jungle, to just tend towards the bottom side of the jungle where all his members have been pathing.
I like what CJ's doing early on. You know, we saw them kind of struggle with all the wards late game after giving a bunch of kills up to Jin Air, but this game they're being pretty proactive about keeping track of Chaser.
It's a very awkward first buy from Pilot. He's gone back and bought an Avarice Blade. Space actually managed to pick up the pickaxe. Must have been only a little bit of gold away. Of course, 800 versus 875 gold for those two pickups, but awkwardly, it feels like the extended duels, which always would go in Jinx's favor as she got levels and more range in her rockets, are just going to be that much stronger for Space versus Pilot.
I mean, I think it just shows Pilot's not really too concerned about fighting this Jinx straight up. She just wants to get some items and be ready for the team fights later on. And it's worked okay for Jin Air so far.
I guess it's worth knowing that Pilot has a cannon support, so even if he doesn't have the lane presence you'd expect from a Sivir at 5 minutes with the Avarice Blade, Cannon can pick up the slack with the auto attacks and just equalize what could be a pretty painful lane, because when Sivir came into the meta around spring season, Jinx was often the counterpick just because you sit there, you're maxing your Q and getting more and more range on your auto attacks, and there's lots of situations where Jinx can auto attack a Sivir, and because of her 500 range, she stands with the minions, so you actually use your 5 mana to harass both the Sivir and push the lane. So she gets so much value in her auto attack trades that she just has a lot of control over Sivir, which certainly not many champions could say back in April or May.
Yeah. Trace getting a chance to finally catch up in CS a little bit. He was down a lot to Shy, but now that the turret's down, he's got some time to CS his way back to relevancy.
Had to itemize into a second Doran's Blade, and we didn't mention this, but
it does hurt.
It is Trace, a player who looks very comfortable on the likes of Rumble, Maokai, and Malphite, playing a champion with a carry mindset. You can build this Fizz quite tanky, but it's still Trinity forced into tanky. You still don't have the same early game build to relevance. So Trace, in this situation where he really needs to overtake lane, has struggled to really have relevant success in the past.
If Fizz gets behind, is not too threatening, is it?
It certainly is, and you really need to hit that par time around 22 minutes or earlier for the Trinity Force, and when you're spending your next 400 plus gold on a Doran Blade, you're just sending that clock back further.
Catching up in CS, trying to do a little bit of damage to Shy, does a decent amount actually.
Might have been close to level 6.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe he would all in at level 5, hoping for the instant level 6. Chaser can stop the back.
Yeah, if you push the lane up, maybe you can dive this here. Shy not going to get hit with that Bracy Girl. He is at the last moment. Oh, Fish comes in. Shy has a flash. Chaser goes in for the flash knockup. Trace there. No ultimate, but Shy's still in a lot of trouble. First blood goes to Trace. That's how you catch a Fizz up.
Excellent play by Chaser. He waited literally to the last second of the back channel to use the Prey Seeker, and they went all in from there. Trace hit 6. Didn't matter they missed the Fish. And then Mission walks through a couple of wards. So.
Well, Chaser really has been the MVP of this team all year long, and he shows it again with that great gank up and top. Good dive against Shy. Nice little tiny lead early on for Jin Air, but CJ does respond by taking away the blue buff from GBM.
Good adjustment from CJ. Good to see they're still doing the little things themselves to try and keep themselves in this series. I agree, but Chase has had to be the playmaker of his team to the nth degree. Play the Nidalee or they would lose. So he'd actually have to pick carry champions from the jungle. The fact that now he can play a control jungler and snowball his lanes ahead rather than have to take the carry onto himself is an important adaptation, because it adds strategic diversity to a Jin Air team that had nothing of the sort for such a long time this season.
Yeah, it had to be pretty frustrating for Chaser to play on a team like that. And certainly was part of what we saw earlier, just this kind of lack of trust between the players. But it really doesn't seem to be an issue right now. I mean, the word on the street is that these guys took a short break after the regular season and then just practiced like crazy, scrimmed like crazy until now. And we're hearing that they're beating a lot of really good teams from around the world, and it certainly seems to be showing here in the Gauntlet.
And the fact that they're able to get and win scrim blocks against a team like LGD is a very impressive thing for a Jin Air team that finished 6th, didn't even make it into the finals Gauntlet. They've really come to play in the postseason, and they've adjusted a lot of their shortcomings. Now, they're still the same team. They still will have those issues closing in the late game. They still have a top laner who isn't a natural carry mindset. He's still someone more like Marin than, say, a Someday, for example. But Marin found the Fizz. Marin found other champions in the top lane that he could carry with, and maybe Trace can add the Fizz to that pool, even this late in the season.
See, there's certain rules to who goes to Worlds from Korea. Rule number 1 is that it's never KT. Rule number 2 is that it's Najin, which, yeah, although Najin, the organization, isn't going, Ku still is. So it's basically Najin still going. Fish onto Shy. Only I thought for a moment. Shy takes a bit of damage, tiny bit. Chaser comes in. Can they actually make a play here? They've got Kennen coming as well.
Debuff has fallen down, so the bonus magic damage is gone.
This is quite a reach, but there's no flash onto Shy. Looks like they're going to let him go. Yeah.
This allows space in Mad Life with the free time. You're leaving free time for a Jinx with 280 items to push down your turrets, so severely punished for that rotation.
Yeah. Bit of a misstep there by Jin Air, giving up that bottom turret without really getting anything for it in return.
And honestly, Chase Roam has really hurt Pilot. We mentioned that Pilot was only relevant in this lane when he was Avarice Blade versus Pickaxe because of Che's lane pressure. And now that Che's left lane, it's still BF Sword against BF Sword Pickaxe, and a 26 CS disadvantage for the Sivir is awkward, given the hyper carry nature of Jinx.
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of the Sivir right now. It just seems like when we've seen it, it just hasn't been able to keep up with all the other AD carries these days, and it kind of seems like that's the way it is again. You got to wonder, you know, how would an Ashe work in this particular case? You'd still have that big initiate.
You think back to the rise and rise of Sivir earlier in the year, and a lot of it was around the fact that her laning phase was super strong and she had that teamfight ult utility. And her laning phase got found out, specifically Jinx as a lane counter developed, and she started to lose a lot of lanes. But the ult was just so all-encompassing, with the press R and win button, get 5 assists, get a gold lead just because you were involved in one team fight, and equalize any laning frustrations. They kept Sivir in the meta, but the severe nerf that we're seeing really pay off on patch 5.15. Now you have to be so on the ball with that ult. The timing is split second, and if you don't take advantage of that, it's just not worth it to pick Sivir as a champion.
I would say so. And Jin Air, for the first time in this series, a bit behind in the early game.
It's only at 500 gold, but they're being dictated to in terms of objectives, and credit to CJ. They picked the Jinx and they used one of her strongest strengths, the ability to fast push. And they've basically set the tempo for the first 12 minutes after having none of it for the last 5 games.
Yeah. So if you're Jin Air, what do you do now? Do you try to take a dragon? There's wards for both teams on each side. Like, what's your priority going to be?
If you can account for Shy, if Trace is pushed up enough that he can just ult and interrupt the teleport, I think Dragon is the right call. Chaser, though.
Uh-oh, Chaser getting caught here. Cocoon onto him. Teleport coming in for CJ as well. Just helps secure that one. GBM from the side. Here comes Kennen. Gets a big stun. Jin Air all over the CJ team. Shy comes in. Mad Life does go down. Trace and Coco duking it out. Looks like this one's going to go to Coco. Ambition with the kill there. And they're going to chase Jin Air away. Shy all over the back lines. And we know what he can do on that Maokai when he gets back there. Kill for space, getting excited. Now Coco comes in for a double, and there goes the ace. A near perfect ace, only losing Mad Life. CJ fans going crazy, and they should. That's exciting stuff, man. 5 for 1. They can go back and maybe take the dragon off of this as well.
Big unforced error by Jin Air. First Chaser is caught. That happens. That's fine. He was going to die, whatever. But they could have backed away in this situation, just given away a kill and probably the dragon. But the call is to go in. Che initiates. GBM walks up, and Space, the majority of this fight is free hitting in the back line. And the moment that first kill comes, you know that she's going to get excited and pick up the remainder of the kills. Shy is excellent, flashing early to get the 3-man arcane smash. And the moment the first kill comes in, hell, even Diana gets into the back line. And CJ pick up the ace, a dragon, and complete control of this game 13 minutes in.
Yep. Looking a bit rough for Jin Air already. And if that Jinx gets rolling, I don't know what you do, because it's still going to be a little while before Pilot has his Infinity Edge.
I mean, Pilot's been left out to dry. That's the reality. They had Che rotate early. They had him pick up the Avarice, but I don't know if that was a team call, if that was his own call, but Avarice Blade against a lane counter like Jinx without basically having your cannon rooted to your side, helping you out. means the CS advantage is going to grow. And look, it's only 21 CS, but it could have been more if there hadn't been the fight previously, because you can't leave Sivir in a lane against this Jinx.
Yeah, beyond that early gank, this Fizz pick really isn't doing much for Trace either, or for Jin Air in general. Still doesn't have that Infinity Edge, or not Infinity Edge, Triforce, but or Trinity Force rather. But it'd be a little while either way. But you need more out of this Fizz. You need him to find ways to get onto space in the back line, and haven't been able to find a way to do that yet.
I mean, 2 months ago, Marin was fizzing a Maokai left, right, and center, split pushing to the point where he would put inhibitors while Maokai would watch on, but that hasn't been the case. In fact, with the last couple of times we've seen Fizz versus Maokai, the Maokai's gone competitive or actually won the lane matchup without any real changes between the two champions. People are just starting to figure out this matchup a little bit more, respect the Fizz and the limits and the damage potential of this champion back in the Trinity Force AD top lane role. And it just becomes harder, and especially when your top laner isn't a native carry, when he's just more of a tank role player, pushing the limits of this advantage and actually creating that mismatch in terms of teleports and pressure in the side lanes. Again, the Sivir and Fizz, I think both can be in the same group where if you can play them ideally, to their complete potential, they are viable meta picks. But if they're not really in your wheel set, if you're reaching for these picks, you'll find situations like this where they just might not work for you.
Seems that way. Cho'Gath as well. Crucially in that last fight, GBM missed his knockup.
Why it's a peculiar lane matchup. You can understand that Cho'Gath will have such a health pool that he won't die to the Diana, but Diana's slippery, and it's going to be very difficult to hit the delayed skill shot in the queue. Now, you have very reliable ranged wave clear for a melee champion. You don't die. But in a team fight especially, without a lot of setup CC, and honestly, only Cannon really provides that from the Jin Air lineup, if you miss both your skill shots, Cho'Gath really provides nothing.
Yeah. Coco getting 3 kills so far this game, certainly in good shape as well.
You worry for the split push situation. Now, both these laners have teleport, but in a long lane, especially with turrets down, just the maneuverability, just the mobility of a champion like Diana, and just the auto attacks being augmented by the Nationals Tooth. I worry for Cho'Gath in a long lane against this Diana.
Well, who's going to stop the split push from Diana,
It's going to have to be the Cho'Gath, but, unless you're hitting skill shots left, right, and center, which can be easily baited out by Coco, you worry. And I guess if Fizz had got well ahead, had Trinity Force, and then maybe a Spectre's Cal or a Hex Drinker, maybe you could opt into the Fizz, but the Fizz is dealing with a winning lane matchup, but certainly no landslide victory like you would expect when it's Fizz against Maokai.
Yeah. Pretty big items picked up by Jin Air now, though. Infinity Edge done on Pilot, Trinity Force done on Trace, so they've got the components.
2 levels between Space and Pilot. Pilot's been denied frequently. Just hits level 11, so it's only a level now, but it's a level and a bit between the AD carries. And when that level's level 11, and when it's a counter matchup, as it is with Jinx versus Sivir, again, one ult might win them the game, but when the rest of your team just isn't at the power level you need.
Going on the Shy is Trace. He's got some damage onto him. Can he get the flash out of Shy here?
Only level 10. There's even a level discrepancy between the Fizz and Maokai.
Yeah, that didn't really seem to do a whole lot. Trace not burning the Ignite, though. Just trying to scare Shy away, I guess. Trying to stop that lane freeze, maybe.
The Fizz ult's on a pretty short cooldown, so next time, if they stay in lane, the ult and Ignite trade probably would be a kill, but Shy's just happy to go back to base, and the pressure continues, looking for more turrets.
CJ just slowly and steadily steamrolling their way across the map. We've seen them have the lead, though. Not as big of a lead as they have in this game, but in game number 1, CJ looked pretty good going to late game, and then there's one team fight. If you get caught late enough, it's going to be the game.
Feels like getting caught is going to require some exclusive vision. If someone's face checking a Trinity Force Fizz, maybe that will lead to something. If GBM has a setup CC.
I feel like there are players on CJ that could provide that.
That's true. So you're thinking of ambition mostly with that statement, but to get that, you need pink wards, you need map control, and that's the crucial difference between games 1 and 2 and game 3 is that Jin Air, they're being dictated to. Their vision control is purely defensive, and CJ are the ones pushing forward the vision. So unless you can make the Q, the rupture from Cho'Gath, predictable, hit that Fizz ult, hit that Cannon ult, you're not going to hit that skill shot, and you're not going to get the picks needed to win a team fight if you're Jin Air.
Purely on the defensive right now. CJ in a good spot to try to take the second dragon. They'll probably do it.
Have to think so. They have by far the full court press going. They're pushing top lane, pushing in bot lane. And now they can kite back towards the dragon. And any sort of initiation from Jin Air, specifically with Pilot being out of mana, would just be an incredibly poor decision. So, uncontested second dragon over to CJ Entus.
Yep. And can Jin Air maybe get a top lane turret out of this?
They're waiting for the ult to run out.
Yeah, teleport coming in. Coco's coming up to help out Shy. Shy taking a lot of damage. Chilling Smite used. They throw the fish down on him too, or the rabbit in this particular case. Coco pulls in GBM. GBM is massive right now, but only in size, not necessarily in strength.
It's not weak, but again, so skill shot reliant is this champion. If you build him AP, the ratios are certainly there, but the predictable skill shots, if you respect the range of the W and you dodge the Q, it's only the true damage from the ultimate that you really have to account for, because otherwise it's just a melee champion hitting away for 100, 150 damage on his auto attacks.
Pretty much. Jin Air still with only that one outer turret down. It just seems a bit odd for Jin Air. You know, clearly they thought they had a very good answer to what CJ brought in. They had the Fizz for the Maokai, they had the Cho'Gath for the Diana, but they seem relatively uncoordinated using this composition.
That's the thing, is that their comps in the first 5 games we've seen from them in this World's Gauntlet have had really cogent identities. They haven't just been this champion strong in lanes, let's counterpick them. They've been comps that work well together. Good initiation, good backline threat, other variables that put together a good team comp. But this seems pretty linear. And the Cho'Gath last pick doesn't really open up any new win conditions for them. It gives them a lane that doesn't get dictated to by Diana, but it also doesn't make things happen in other places on the map. And that's basically the bigger issue here, is that the moment they fell behind, and remember they were granted a level 1 lead in games 1 and 2, but they've been out-rotated, out-laned by CJ Entus, and they don't have that big early snowball to trade on that they did in the first 2 games.
Oh, trying to go after Shy here. Chilling Smite used the knockup as well. Nicely positioned by GBM. Will he feast? Oh, will Shy get away? No, not quite. GBM picks him off.
Use the feast early, of course, means they take him down. So they're going to probably trade turrets. It's still a Jinx free hitting, and Coco's coming to try and dissuade them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, CJ gets one. Shade takes some pretty serious damage here as they move up to the inhibitor turret.
Not even going to be a turret trade. Coco, a lot of wave clear. Enough threat for 2 members to back away, and Space is free hitting on the inhibitor turret.
Pilot needs to be careful. He could just get killed by a rocket from space right now. That sounds cool, but I just mean the Jinx ultimate.
Looking to trade upon his spell shield, but very, very risky to do so. CJ back away. They backed away a couple of minutes ago and picked up a dragon. They back away and steal away the red buff. And definitely a really different game from CJ. And good to see them not roll over and die after 2 poor performances in this series.
Yeah. Well, we've had some weird stuff go on. I mean, like the level 1 team fights were not normal. GBM gets caught by that cocoon, teleport immediately for Jin Air. That's going to cause CJ to pull back for a moment.
Now you have
not kill GBM.
This awkward situation.
Oh, going in. Kennen trying to get the stun. He does get some. Dies immediately, though. Pilot trying to find some place to do damage. Oh, he got Space. Space got hit by Trace's ultimate, but no follow-up. Space takes, like, no damage. Playful tricks her away. Oh, but here comes Coco in the back lines all over Chaser. That's going to be a kill. Coco has been unleashed. Gets the double. And he's not done yet as Space is excited. Double kill for him as well. A clean ace for CJ. And I don't think this one is going to go Jin Air's way.
Finally looks like a post-season win for CJ Entus. Yeah. A surrender actually is drawn out from Jin Air, and wow.
Yeah, I've got to say, not too surprising. It's really unclear what Jin Air would have done from that point. Might as well just move on to the next one.
Clarity is definitely a word that could be leveled as a query against Jin Air. You can understand on a simple level, Fizz versus Maokai. I guess to some degree the defensive Cho'Gath against the Diana, but the 5-man group, once they fell behind, did not really have any playmaking potential. And if your Fizz does not have solo kill pressure on a Maokai, and you've left your Sivir out to dry against a Jinx, this is the result. A comfortable victory for CJ Entus.
Yeah. Jin Air still one game away from moving on, but CJ showing some strength, showing that they can certainly come back in this series. I said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised to see it go to Game 5. I'll stand by that. We'll see if CJ can make it happen. They've got a chance to tie it up in our next game.
It's just nice to see some signs of life from a proud org like CJ Entus. Jin Air, go back to the drawing board, shore up that pick ban, because last one, bit of a head scratch.
Yeah, we said CJ looked tired coming into this game. They did not look tired there. They struck early, they kept the lead, played it pretty much perfectly, very methodically out of the mid-game.
They made something happen with the pass push. That was the difference from CJ's. They made something happen after kind of being an onlooker for the first two games.
Bit of an odd comp from Jin Air. We'll see if they change things back to be a bit more standard in Game 4. Either way, do not go anywhere, guys. When we come back, Jin Air trying to finish things off. CJ trying to tie things up. We'll see who gets what they want as we return for Game 4 right after this.